Well, I grew up going to the barbershop. Um, growing up in an Italian household, it was like the thing that I look forward to do with my grandpa, and just the camaraderie, just at a very young age. I just always thought it was really special, and back then, um, they had the Playboys in the drawer, and I would see the older guys pull them out, and just the old Coke machine. I'd put the quarter in and pull the bottle out and pop the top, and just kind of felt like a big boy when I was young in the barbershop going there. And the building that the shop that we would go to was in burnt down, and I thought that the barbershop burnt down, and I was probably 7, and I cried, and the shop didn't burn down, but the building around it caught fire, and it was a major thing for me, thinking that would have been gone, and then up into growing up, my dad picked me up when I was 12, and I went to go live with him, and my stepmom's family had a barbershop, and that's why you'll see I have a movie coming out this summer called There Ain't No Sheer Luck, and you'll see one of my aunts say, "I'm Donnie's aunt," and then she'll say "uncle," because I always would tell people I hung around my uncles, and there was always a barber chair on the patio, so I started cutting my friends' hair, but they were really my aunts, through my stepmom. But 13 years old. My cousin was on the football team, and the whole football team got mohawks during Hell Week, which is a week of hell before you start the football season, American football, and they all got mohawks, and I jumped in and did it at 13 years old, and I kind of felt like through the rest of my years, like, wow, that was fun, and stayed there, and right out of high school, I was working a job in a warehouse and got hurt, and they sent me to retrain at something that I could do. I used to box, so I was an old boxer, and broke my hand a lot, and my wrestled knees problems, and so started barber college. And while in barber college in 1990, after high school, I heard about a barber in the same school but in a different city called Roston's. And Roston's Barber College, it was the barber college. It was gladiator school, really. When I went there the first time in 90, and then, ended up dropping out because I had to work and make some money. My uncle allowed me to run this construction job. It was like a 90-unit paint job, and so I was still cutting hair, but I heard about this barber Jake who had Elvis tattooed on his whole back, and I wanted to meet this guy because he was into rockabilly, and I thought I was the only rockabilly cat around, and he was going to Roston's in Anaheim. I was in Long Beach, and I ended up meeting him at the Palomino, this old honky-tonk club in North Hollywood, and I met him and told him, I want to be a barber too, and I'm real good. And the rockabilly scene was so small at the time. He was like, "I'm already opening a shop," and totally discouraged me. And he had his shop for a while, and he passed away. So no disrespect to Jake. He had a good shop, and it was a small shop, and it was real, and it was rockabilly. He was a little hard to deal with. I actually lived with him at one point, and he knew I was good. He just didn't want me to be a barber, and we would drive around, and barbering was vanishing. We'd see old guys sitting in the barber chair by themselves reading a newspaper, and it was, something clicked, and I said, I gotta save it, man. I gotta do my part to save barbering, and I had no idea it would be where it is now. I did the ice show in Long Beach, and it's a cosmetology kind of hairstylist driven show. And the first time we did that show, they put me in the back in this little 10 foot space, 10 by 10 booth, and I put a barber pole on the table and was doing shaves, and people were like, they thought I was from, Mars or something. It wasn't cool. Going back to when I went back to barber college after I started in 90, I had to get a license to open a shop. It's been 17 years. I opened Hollywood's Barbershop in a little 2-chair shop. We shoved a 3rd chair in there. There were no barbers to hire at the time, and that was 1999. Everything was unisex driven, and you couldn't get a shave anywhere. And the barbershop was real urban. I think it was a quick come up for some of my homeboys I met in the hood, as far as traditional flat tops and pumps and high and tights and tapers, they weren't being done anymore. And there was no social media. It was really hard. I just set up at shows to get myself out there. And my first card and combs had my pager number on them. And I would hand the combs out at shows, rockabilly, punk rock shows, and people would start paging me at tattoo shops. There'd be like 20 guys there on a Monday waiting. And I started cutting hair in the back of the Pike Tattoo Shop in Long Beach, the oldest tattoo shop in the United States. And I had friends that worked there. And I was in a car club, so I'd cut their hair, and I was cutting hair in the back of Classic Tattoo with Eric Mosky. And Eric Mosky was a traditional tattooer who had a lot of famous guys come through his shop. Guys in Rancid and Tiger Army and Social Distortion. And so I got to, cut a lot of those guys, Stray Cats, and started making a name for myself. And it got to the point where I had to pull Eric Webb out of retirement. He was driving a forklift because he wanted to be able to get insurance. And you want insurance. You needed to get medical insurance. So he wasn't cutting hair anymore. He was a great barber. So I was able to pull him out, get him into Hollywood's, and it was so different than anything that had been done. When Jake had his shop before he passed away, it was real turquoise, pink and black, black and white checkerboard floors, turquoise walls, rockabilly kind of more bubble gum. I want to do a shop like a shop where Al Capone would walk in and feel comfortable, So I did dark brown cream and cream colored walls, and then a lot of wood, a shoe shine stand, and we really wanted to make it gentlemen only, and it was really tough to do. We'd have girls come in and they would be telling the barbers how they wanted their boyfriend's haircut, and I remember Eric Webb stepping in front of a girl and saying, "How do you want your haircut, bro?" It's like,
that's how it's just that.
So then it was like I need to be the guy, the voice, the person that brings barbering back. In barber college at the time, you needed 1,000 men's haircuts, 600 straight razor shaves, with the cutthroat razor, and it was real. I mean, the school I went to, there was probably about 30 black guys, 5 Mexican guys, and me, and you would have guys, gangsters, because it was a quick come up in the hood to be able to, put the QP of weed under the chair cloth and charge for everything at the register or wherever. It's all cash. So those guys were, they take a bullet for me, man. That school was crazy, man. They have guns in their barber kits, and it was just so much work to do. There's so much involved in a men's haircut, and I just didn't understand why you paid $70 in a salon to get a haircut where they were never trained to do properly, and you go to a barbershop and you pay, you freak out when it's $25 or something, so you don't want to see a girl before or during your haircut. No one looks cool in the middle of a haircut. You want to see them after. You want to talk about them. If a girl walks in, the record skips, the conversation changes out of respect for them. And I don't want to go, with my girlfriend to go get her hair done. I mean, I'd rather have the flu, really.
So
and
how would you deal with that?
you have a right to refuse service to anyone, but in 1960 they put a clause in there, you can't discriminate against gender. So that makes things a little challenging. So we're respectful about it, and if a girl comes in and her boyfriend's balls are so far in her purse you can't get a shave and a cut without her, we have a back room and there's a bar back there, and they wait back there and have a drink, and we've accommodated. Well, Layrite started because I was messing around with making my own pomades coming out of the rockabilly greaser scene. And I have really, really curly hair. I mean, super curly hair. So I couldn't find anything that I could get that big pump with that would wash out. The stuff that we had available was butch wax and the petroleum-based products. It seemed like it would never wash out. So if you didn't style your hair right the first go around, you weren't able to wash it out and start over. You know what I mean? Hair was such a big thing in this rockabilly scene that I was in, and I was changing the rear main seal on an old Packard. We had an old car club. Old cars were a big part of the culture, a big part of the hairstyle even was the cars. It seemed like everything really revolved around the cars and the girls back then. But I was with an old friend and changing the rear main seal on an old Packard, and there was some sticky oil that was on there for probably 40, 50 years maybe, old fuel car. We were trying to bring back to life, and the texture of the caked on oil, it just felt like it would work in my hair. So I grabbed a mason jar and scooped as much as I could into it with some Vaseline and Old Spice and some other things, and rocked up to the show with it, and it worked. The only problem was my friends and we thought we were so cool because we're wearing grease that's actually from the car, but the girls were like, dude, you guys smell way too much like the garage. Way too. It's cool that you're greasers, but you smell. So, that was my first, go at messing with pomade, and because of my curly, hair being a wop and all.
So what about the Layrite?
Well, I started mixing pomade. I started mixing ingredients that I thought would work um, um, and wash out. And I had a customer with similar hair to mine, and I would have to use some, hairspray, round brush, roll the curl out, and I would put my own product in his hair, and he was like, man, you're the only person my whole life that's ever been able to get my hair to lay right. And I mean, this was a shop. This was before social media. This is a little tiny 600 square foot shop. People started driving hours because I only sold it out of the shop. I didn't ship it out. I didn't have I didn't have a website or anything. I mean, no one was even on the internet. And I started putting it in my own cans and taking it to shows, backpacking it in, and sneaking it through with my band friends so they could get it back through backstage to throw it to the crowd. And I would set up in coat closets. I would go to festivals and set up in punk rock shows, rockabilly events. I would be asked by musicians to style their hair before they go on stage at shows, and I just I brought my product along everywhere I went and gave it away. Started making my own t-shirts, gave those away. I just had to make sure that it performed, Now, all these years later, now there's been a lot of people that love Layrite within my own county, and they take it and try and copy it, and they're not even barbers, and they used to use Layrite, and now there are 4 booths down at a show I've been doing for 15 years or more, and it looks like my product, the same bottles, same packaging, and it doesn't work. It's not made to perform because it was not made by a person that knows hair, knows barbering, knows products, knows what works and what doesn't. It took a long. I accidentally made Layrite with the ingredients that are in it that allows you to wear it and wash it out. And it was out of necessity that Layrite was made, because my friends would come in and they'd have grease in their hair. I'm not going to mention names of, but petroleum-based products is all we had, and I couldn't get my clippers through it. And it was I wanted to do the best haircut possible, and it was preventing me from doing that. And I remember when the right mix came around, and it was just, I was able to wash it out, do the haircut perfectly, paint it on like I do, and put the pomade back in around the world and back. And now I'm nominated to be in the Barbering Hall of Fame. Who knows if I'll be inducted? We'll see. I don't want to jinx myself, but yeah, I'll probably be the youngest ever to, maybe the second youngest ever to be inducted to the Barbering Hall of Fame. I've been able to travel with Layrite in Hollywood's Barbershop and my style of barbering to Canada 4 years in a row. I influenced a bunch of guys there that are now barbers. Holland, Japan, bunch of years, bunch of tours in Japan, Germany. I built Hollywood's Barbershop in Australia with some youngsters that I was an influence, and they came out and said, hey, come out to Australia. We want to put Hollywoods and Layrite out in Australia. We did that. Australia, been in Fashion Week in Brazil, cutting hair, hanging out with Iggy Pop, and it's just been unbelievable that I can't even count how many people have told me just in the last few years, you've changed my life, you've influenced me. I have tattoos. I don't know how to tattoo. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and you created a trade that I'll have for life. And hugs and snail mail letters coming to the shop even, and lots of emails, and it's I never dreamed that it would be what it is. East Coast is a lot different than West Coast style of barbering, and the style of barbering I do is all traditional. I don't use the word fade, and I always say taper and low and tight, high and tight, flat top with fenders, pompadours. Everything's done with 3 outlines. Everything's done with a straight razor. We shave all the lines of the razor. We brought that back, and I had to teach my friends, that I thought were good enough to do all those things, and they're making a living and really doing making money at a hobby. Really is what it is for all of us. I think that get to be lucky enough to be real barbering is very important to me, and I'm a master barber, and you used to need to have 10 years as a licensed barber to be a master barber, and I have that, and now it's just unbelievable how many people have been influenced by Hollywood's Barbershop and Layrite pomade. I can't even believe it. I watched a documentary on tattooing, and Jack Rudy said, "Hey, we would have did things a little differently if we would have known how this whole tattoo thing was going to turn out." I kind of feel like that, but it's very important to me to keep the trade of real barbering, and to distinguish the difference between a barber and a stylist, because there is a difference. In California, you cannot use a straight razor unless you went to barber college, and that is very important to barbers. And I feel that the work that barbers are doing today, the talent that I see is unbelievable. Never stop learning. I'm still learning. Never stop learning, and I feel really blessed to have been able to influence all the people that I have. And it's been a wild ride, boy. Wow. Well, I was lucky enough to go out to Japan with Sid from Sid's Tattoo Parlor in Santa Ana, one of the best guys I ever met. And he tattooed, I cut hair. We were at a little festival there, a little car show, and I plugged my clippers in, and the voltage was totally different in Tokyo than the clippers I had to use on my trip. And there's a barber chair there. There's like a half circle of all photographers, all these Canon cameras, and all these people waiting for me to step up, like I'm gonna step up on stage in a band or something. And I'm all confident, and I plug them in, and they start smoking, and the loudest noise you ever heard, and I immediately start sweating. So, I had to have one of the guys there run to like a drugstore and get just a set of clippers they had there, and just luckily I have skills with just a clipper over comb. I don't need attachments, so Japanese hair is the hardest hair to cut. So I was shitting balls, man. I was like, wow, what am I gonna do here? And 9 years of going to Japan on haircut tours, actually setting up Wahl in Japan, made a clipper that is cordless and lasts 9 hours. I couldn't believe it, and I met with them there, and they're going to etch my name on the cordless Wahls. And now I could cut on top of Mount Fuji if I wanted to. There's another clipper out that I like to use, the Andis ceramic. It's real quiet, and I use a 5/0 or a surgical attachment on there to do my outlines. And they have a clipper that allows me to use those a 5/0 blade on a clipper that you can charge. You don't need cords anymore. It's awesome. So,
They should call that clipper the Don Folly 90.
Donnie Hawley, man. Donnie Hawley. Well,
So you can work from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 at night, 8 hours.
right. And then it's you get two of them and charge them both up, and you're off and running, man. Well, I've been filming this movie. It's a documentary movie about my life. It's called There Ain't No Sheer Luck. And sheer is spelled like cheers. SHEAR, cheers. There ain't no sheer luck, because I did all this before social media, and it was not easy, and it wasn't cool, and I got made fun of, and I didn't mean to, I was real closed off to people wanting to learn this skill that took so long, that it was, I'm self-taught, and I've kind of, I've had barbers that were friends that I've taught, and because I went out to travel, because there was no social media or any way to, I was in 100 magazines, and I've influenced a lot of people being in magazines, actually, before social media. I got lucky and got into a lot of these magazines that popped up, like Old School Rods and a lot of Custom Culture, and Viva Las Vegas came out, and all. It was, going from the only barbershop booth at a show, and the only pomade booth for years, to a bunch of booths and a bunch of people out there doing it. It's just important that I stand up for real barbering, and there's a lot of people kind of masquerading as barbers. They'll get sleeved, get tattooed in 6 months, and they'll call themselves barbers when they're not. And this whole documentary film kind of tells my life and my journey, and that's been really amazing. It's in post-production now, so it's been a long haul, lot of filming, and I'm looking forward to it. It should be out by summer 2016, and I just was able to throw my own traditional barber showcase, like we're at here, which is real cosmetology driven, these shows. And I would go to a lot of these shows, and even the barber shows that started popping up, real urban, a lot of hip hop pounding in my ear, and I wanted to do a show which is fine, it's just not my style. I wanted to do a traditional showcase where Dean Martin's playing, and everyone's in suits, dressed nice, classy, more classy. The competition categories were different. The flat top category, the pompadour category, high and tight, and we just brought we kind of bit off more than we could chew. I think doing it at the Grove in Anaheim. I think the Rolling Stones play there and stuff, and it's next to Anaheim Stadium. But we loved it. It was a big accomplishment to be able to throw a traditional barber showcase, and I brought a lot of my favorite barbers that do traditional work now on stage, and put them on pedestals. 4 pedestals when you walked in. They were on pedestals. I put them on pedestals. And as you walk in, you see 4 barbers on all 4 corners of this auditorium. And then Vicky Tafoya and the Big Beat, classy band playing. That was really amazing to do. And I did that after Brazil, and then after my Japan tour, I did the Layrite showcase at the Grove in Anaheim, and now I'm sitting in New York at this show here in New York, and we have the best booth. I went from a 10 by 10 at this kind of a show, 10-foot booth, to this massive barber booth that's here in the middle of a cosmetology show, and it's just a lot of my favorite barbers are on stage, rotating 2 at a time, doing their models are showing up. Everyone's having a great time, and it's allowing them to feel special and allowing the trade of barbering to be where it should be. I mean, there's so much work that goes into a men's haircut. It has to be done by a traditional barber, and it takes a long time and a lot of skill. So I feel like, yeah, I'm gracious and humbled that I was able to, pioneer the vanishing trade of barbering. I feel, and I'm a pomade pioneer as well. A lot of people are trying to get my formula down, but it isn't going to happen. Stay right with Layrite, baby. There's an apprenticeship program that luckily exists in California. You can either go to barber college for 10 months straight, 40 hours a week. You don't get paid. You have to pay, or you can apprentice under a master barber, and that's 2 years. And then you start developing your skills, and then you're making money as you're apprenticing. That's a good route to go as a young guy starting out, wanting to be a barber. If you want to be a traditional barber, do not go to cosmetology school. You will not learn how to cut men's hair in cosmetology school. And it takes a lot of haircuts, and you make all your mistakes in school in barber college. There's no mistakes when you get on the floor in my shop, and I'm sure it's becoming more competitive now, and it's good to see everyone kind of putting their hands down and letting some of the trade secrets out. But when you take the time it takes as a youngster starting out to learn those skills, you're basically, everyone's kind of self-taught. In my shops, I show them what I do, and they take what I do and they apply their own, touch. They put their own touch on it. There's guys that I taught that they can explain what they're doing better. I just, it's hard for me. You got to be with me, next to me. I don't let my guys even cut hair for 3 months if they're apprenticing until they watch what goes down the process that I do for 3 months. So either get into a good barber college, and if you're young and you can stay at home and you don't have to work, that's a good way to do it. And then get that 10 months out of the way and start your clientele. Start building your clientele. I mean, before social media, I went to the local hotels and found the coolest concierge at the biggest hotel, and I would take care of him every month on the house. I'd pamper him. I'd shine his shoes. I shine shoes very well, by the way. My grandpa taught me. I'd shine his shoes, cut his hair, shave, hot towels. All of a sudden, for the first time in his life, people are telling him how good his hair looks because I added all those extra things, the 3-step process of the painting it on, the tapers, and the products. And he walks out of the shop feeling like $1 million. And I mean, a haircut will change your life. If I'm depressed, or if I ever was, or if I had, my grandpa told me, if you have 10 cents in your pocket, get your shoes shined. That was a saying. And I've had guys in prison doing prison time write me letters saying I'm getting out, and just having enough money to get a bus ride and a haircut. That's when they got released after prison, and changed their life with a haircut. Start fresh, and I mean, you're changing lives, man. When you hone those skills as a barber, and you develop that clientele. I mean, there's a saying. There's a certain mythology to the barbershop experience that is quite beautiful. But once the relationship is forged between a barber and a patron, it will outlast friendships and some of the strongest marriages. And barbering is a trade that takes a lot of skill and a long time to learn. So, if you're young and you're starting out, get into barber college or find a good master barber and do whatever you can to try and get underneath them and learn. And don't be afraid of the hair, man. It's I think that it's getting a little saturated. So you need to find the right person in the right school, it's changed my life, and in doing so, changed a lot of people's lives. And barbering is alive and well, and I love it, man. I don't even feel like I work, and when I'm at the shop, I've had my problems, the friends that I taught, because there were no barbers, and I traveled so much to get the shop out there and my products out. My barbers, they've created some mutinies and opened up and down the street now, left the shop and mass text all the customers I put in their chairs. So I've had to start over about 5 times, but I've done it, and the best revenge is success. So check out the movie this summer.
Donnie, thank you very much for your words of wisdom. I'm real honoured that you've given me the time to...
Thank you kindly, man. You're amazing.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure after the viewers watch this, they're going to get a deeper insight into...
I appreciate it. I'm honored. Thank you.